use her chances and, you know, push me. So yeah, for sure she deserves to win this match. Her being a lefty didn't surprise me, but for sure, like, she went all in, you know, and she made this return in and pretty long, so it wasn't easy to hit it back, you know.
I've improved a lot. So I think just being, you know, I've always believed in myself. I've always believed that I could do it. But
whatever you're doing, you must stop. Put down your phone, turn this to your largest screen, and pay close attention to what I have to say, because the world of tennis has just experienced an epic seismic shockwave, and Alexandra Ayala, the pride of the Philippines, is the epicenter of this earthquake. The mainstream sports media has been conditioning us for years to think that the top of the women's game is an impregnable stronghold controlled by a small number of people. New members are only stepping stones for the established elite in this private club. We have witnessed Igas create a legacy based on total oppressive control. With a flurry of powerful top spin, unrelenting footwork, and an aura of invincibility that makes most players lose the match in the locker room before they even set foot on the court, this athlete not only defeats her opponents, but also psychologically destroys them. However, in their conceited forecasts, the pundits and analysts entirely missed the fact that a storm was building in the Mediterranean, something that the tennis establishment fundamentally failed to comprehend. The aspirations of more than 100 million Filipinos drove a storm that was formed in the red soil of Mallorca. Eala, a storm, entered the court with the intention of conquering rather than surviving. Welcome back to the channel where we delve deeply into the psychological warfare, tactical master courses, and pure truth behind the greatest moments in sports history, refusing to settle for the surface level narratives. And now, we're dissecting Alexa's historic paradigm-shifting triumph over Iga Swiatek, the uncontested tennis queen, examining the covert tactical changes that rendered the world #1 absolutely ineffective, and revealing the harsh, brutal truths of what actually takes place behind the Rafa Nadal Academy's closed doors to transform a juvenile genius into an ultimate giant slayer.
improved a lot. So I think just being, you know, I've always believed in myself. I've always believed that I could do it. But to be able to produce and execute, it gives that extra layer of self-esteem and confidence.
I've come a long way. I believe it simply because I have always had faith in myself. Although I've always thought I could succeed, being able to produce and carry it out adds another level of confidence and self-worth. When you see a moment like the one we just witnessed, your initial reaction might be to describe it as a miracle, a fluke, or a fortunate day where the champion had a bad day and the underdog stars aligned perfectly. However, you are aware that there are no miracles on the baseline if you have a thorough understanding of professional tennis mechanics. Only preparation, execution, and the harsh reality of one person forcing their will on another exist. You must have a thorough understanding of the scary riddle that is Iga Swiatek in order to really appreciate the scope of what Alexa just accomplished. Iga's style of tennis is intended to deplete your oxygen supply. Her opponents are forced to make defensive shots from awful defensive positions as a result of her fierce looping top spin, which kicks up violently off the court and pushes them farther and farther back into the fences. After she has you pinned back, she enters the baseline and performs a devastating symphony, hitting winners into the open court while you are left struggling to breathe. The majority of players enter the court with the intention of simply staying in the rally. They don't play to lose. Right down the middle, they made safe shots. They hope for unintentional mistakes, and they will unavoidably be chewed up and spat out in quick succession. However, Alexa didn't approach the situation with a victim mentality, with the attitude of an apex predator who had researched her prey. She strolled out there, and her strategic plan was a superb strategy crafted by a tennis whiz. The idea of time is the key to solving Iga's code, which so few players have been able to do. Sweet's intricate extreme western grip forehand takes time to set up. To plant her feet, coil her hips, and uncoil with that lethal rotational force. She needs that split second. By taking the ball very early on the rise and maintaining her position firmly on the baseline, Eala made the deliberate and incredibly courageous decision to completely rob the world #1 of her time when she went onto the court. This is a very risky and challenging tactic that calls for extraordinary footwork and hand-eye coordination, for the ball will soar into the stands if you miss the bounce by a single millimeter and strike the racket's frame. However, Eala carried it out with such cold-blooded accuracy that everyone in the stadium was in complete shock. Before the Polish star could even regain her position, Eala took the ball early and rerouted Swiat's enormous pace back at her. The hunter was suddenly the hunted. It was ego that felt hurried. It was her ego that got the better of her. And the tennis community was shocked to see the world number one appear genuinely anxious and scared early in the contest. However, it would be impossible to discuss this tactical masterclass without mentioning the left-handed geometry's greatest advantage. Eala is a southpaw, and if you know how to exploit the angles properly, being a lefty in tennis is like having a superpower. Ego also aggressively targeted the backhand side with her heavy biting cross-court forehand, dragging her out wide and opening up the court. She then flattened out her own backhand down the line for blazing winners that painted the lines with alarming accuracy. The geometric supremacy was displayed in a beautiful yet destructive way.
Of Rafa, tell us about your time at the Rafa Nadal Academy. How old were you when you went there, and what's that been like for you?
Yeah, I've been there since I was 13. So it's been quite a while, and I've built so many long-lasting relationships there, and I love it there, and hence why I'm still there. But I just think it's a great place, so sentimental for me because I've spent all my teenage years there, and yeah, I think it was just a great experience growing up. Yeah.
Speaking of when you were a teenager, another great result in your career was when you won the US Open Juniors.
Additionally, it demonstrated that Eala already possesses a championship-level tennis IQ, but if your intellect breaks under the extreme pressure of the situation, tactical genius is meaningless. And to know why Eala's mind did not break, why she maintained the composure and aloofness of a seasoned combat veteran, we must go deeply into the harsh, demanding, and life-changing Rafa Nadal Academy in Mallorca. Tell us about your experience at the Rafa Nadal Academy while we're on the subject. What was your age when you visited, and how did it go for you? Yes, I have been there since I was 13 years old. It's been a long time, but I've developed a lot of enduring relationships there, and I love it, which is why I'm still there. However, I simply believe it's a fantastic location. I'm quite sentimental about it since I spent my entire adolescent years there, and I believe it was a wonderful experience for me as a child. Yes, speaking of your teenage years, winning the US Open Juniors was another outstanding accomplishment in your career. At that point, people envision luxury when they hear of a prominent tennis academy in Spain. Modern amenities, sunshine, and a laid-back Mediterranean way of life are what they envision. However, the reality of the Rafa Nadal Academy is a furnace of pain, discipline, and complete psychological rebuilding, particularly for the top players selected to be trained for the professional tour. It's not a summer camp. This factory is made to create champions out of dirt and iron, overseen by Uncle Tony's and Rafa's personal ideologies. Men who founded an empire on the tenets that you had to learn to suffer, to accept the agony, and to fight for everything as though your life depended on it. Eala went to Mallorca for more than simply improving her kick-serve technique. In the midst of the hardship of the top Spanish clay court, she went there to be baptized. She learned that when you are down breakpoint in the third set of a major event, resilience is the only thing that matters, and that talent is cheap. Imagine being a young adolescent thousands of miles away from your family in the Philippines, juggling intense national expectations, homesickness, and the physically taxing demands of practicing with the greatest tennis player in history. Rafa Nadal teaches you more than simply how to play. His very existence on the nearby courts necessitates a level of performance that makes you decide to level up or leave. This mindset became ingrained in Adala's own being. She picked up the Nadal method, which is a constant psychotic focus on the next point. No excuses, no throwing of rackets, and no expressing bad emotion to your opponent. This psychological armor and bulletproof vest created in Mallorca are exactly what saved her when she took the court against Iga Swiatek, regardless of whether she just hit the greatest winner of her life or committed the worst unforced mistake imaginable. The momentum in that game threatened to change at certain points. There are times when I think she's a tremendous champion because she elevated her game, made incredible passing shots, and glared across the net in an attempt to terrify the young Filipina, break her aura, and locate a weakness in the foundation. It would have withered a normal player. A typical athlete would have let their shoulders droop, turned to face their coaching box in desperation, and given in to the world number one's unavoidable return. Eala, however, did not flinch. She mirrored her mentor Rafael Nadal's stoic Intimidation perfectly as she stood on the baseline, bouncing on her toes, her face an unreadable mask of sheer concentrated intent. She gazed at Swiatek with the calculating coldness of an assassin waiting for her opportunity to attack, rather than fear. Alex pushed back more forcefully when Iga
Look at it, and I try to take it in with as much gratitude as I possibly can, because I know not a lot of players are able to have this platform, and it's a blessing to have this support behind me. So yeah, I won't say that it comes without any pressure at all. But what I do is I just try to focus on what I need to do on court, how I can work to the best of my ability, and I know that I'll perform.
Iga pressed. Alex demonstrated her exceptional physical conditioning when EGA attempted to prolong the rallies to test her legs and lungs. The pundits were yelling in complete disbelief as they tracked down drop shots, slid into corners, and retrieved balls. It wasn't just one ace or one forehand that changed the outcome of the match. The stadium was filled with a shared realization, the understanding that Alex Eala wasn't a fake, that she belonged on that court, and that she wasn't just content to be there. Rather, she truly anticipated winning. The crowd's energy changed and you could feel it. The enormous number of Filipino supporters that travel the world to cheer for their sportsmen started to notice that history was being made in front of them. The likelihood increased. The air became electrified. Eala capitalized on this enthusiasm, expressing the pride of a country that has been waiting decades for a world-class tennis player to call their own. The Philippines has long held a dominant position in weightlifting, pool, and boxing. However, Europeans and Americans have long dominated tennis. A Southeast Asian player found it extremely difficult to break past the ceiling in this sport due to financial and geographic obstacles. Alex Eala bears the burden of a trailblazer for the countless of children in Manila, Cebu, and around the archipelago who are picking up rackets because they finally witnessed someone who looks like them taking down the greatest in the world. She is the trailblazer and the ray of hope. I try to approach it with as much thankfulness as I can, since I know that not many players have access to this platform, and I consider it a blessing to have this support system behind me. So, yes, it definitely does come with pressure, but I won't say that. Well, I just try to concentrate on what I have to accomplish in court. It was not just the end of a tennis match, it was the breaking of a glass ceiling and a declaration of arrival that will reverberate through the WTA tour corridors for years to come. Look at the raw emotion. Look at the release of thousands of hours of sacrifice, hard gym sessions, lonely hotel rooms, doubts, injuries, and every single obstacle that stood in her way. You know how I can work to the best of my ability, and I know that I'll perform to the best. All of this was confirmed in a single magnificent moment of complete victory. In contemporary women's tennis, defeating Iga Swiatek is the ultimate litmus test. Every knight must defeat the dragon in order to demonstrate their suitability for the throne. Furthermore, Alexandra Eala accomplished more than only defeat the dragon. It was outwitted by her. It was outworked by her. And on the largest platform conceivable, she blew it away. However, the fact that this is not the end of the film is what makes the plot so captivating. Since failing to reach the peak of the mountain is the hardest thing in professional sports, this is just the conclusion of the first act. It is remaining there when all of a sudden, everyone is aiming for you. The hunter operating under the radar is no longer Alex Eala. The hunted is now her. All the players in the locker room have paid attention. Tape is being pulled by coaches. Her serve is being dissected by analysts. Additionally, the media and fans' expectations will grow rapidly. The pressure will be tremendous. It will be blindingly bright. However, the girl who grew up under Rafael Nadal's watchful eye, who thrives in the heat of battle, and who knows that true greatness is defined by the relentless, dull, daily pursuit of perfection rather than by one huge upset, is the best person. To handle this transition, we are seeing how a full-fledged tennis player develops. She can now win cheap points when she needs them most thanks to her serve's impressive pace and placement. She can now move quickly from defense to offensive since her movement has become rapid and flowing, and her mental strategy is a stronghold of unwavering iron as we have carefully examined. Her strong, steadfast ties to her heritage, however, may be her greatest strength. Her pride in representing the Philippines is a constant source of inspiration. When the match reaches the 2-hour mark, it gives her a higher purpose, a cause to endure the searing in her lungs and the lactic acid in her legs. She is playing for more than just ranking points or prize money. She is performing to motivate a country and demonstrate that exceptional talent can emerge from any place if it is fostered with unmatched commitment and unflinching faith. Since Alexa's reign has officially begun and she is not requesting permission to sit down, the tennis establishment will need to make room at the table. She is demanding her respect and kicking the door wide open. The story has changed. Now that the old guard has been placed on notice, the WTA Tour's future appears to be both immeasurably more fascinating and extremely perilous. What precisely do you people think of this huge historic performance? Is Eala consistent enough to win a Grand Slam this year, in your opinion? To what extent do you attribute her outstanding mindset to the harsh training regimen at the Rafa Nadal Academy? What steps should Swiatek take, in your opinion, to combat this new aggressive blueprint that Eala just made public? Since I read every single remark and enjoyed discussing the nuances of this lovely sport with all of you, please flood the comment area with your ideas, your in-depth tactical analyses, and your messages of support for the Filipina phenom. Make sure to hit the like button to help move this video through the algorithm if you value this degree of in-depth study and want to see the raw truth behind the baseline. As we follow Eala's unavoidable trip to the ultimate pinnacle of tennis, history, make sure to hit the subscribe button and activate the notification bell so you never miss an update. I really appreciate you viewing. Continue to support authentic tennis journalism and keep in mind that, in a match that is measured in millimeters and milliseconds, mental toughness is what ultimately determines who takes home the trophy at the end of the match.